Red Sox got some pretty big injury news yesterday that has the potential to change everything. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and yesterday was not a good day for the Red Sox on the field. And don't worry, we will talk about that in due time. But yesterday off the field was a different story because they got some really big injury news about two of their main pieces on this team and the road back to Fenway Park. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about the latest Red Sox injury news, what it means for the players, and of course, what it means for the Boston Red Sox. But before we get into that, just a heads up, we are going to be live tonight on this channel right around 7 p.m. Eastern time to watch the rubber match between the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. Should be a really interesting game, and we're going to be talking all things Red Sox, so make sure you guys are there. Again, that is going to be 7 o'clock tonight on this channel. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so there were actually a few injury updates given out by Alex Cora, both before and after yesterday's game, but there is two injury updates that I want to focus on specifically that have to do with basically the two main players on this Red Sox IL. The first one being about Liam Hendriks, the all-star closer that the Red Sox picked up this offseason, who had undergone Tommy John surgery and really was a piece that the Red Sox were hoping to get ready for 2025. Well, yesterday, Alex Cora announced that he will be throwing his first bullpen session coming off of Tommy John surgery. Now, for those of you who don't know, Liam Hendriks actually came into the Boston Red Sox and was pretty public about his goals of playing in the 2024 season. In fact, at the beginning of the year, he stated that his goal was to be back with the Boston Red Sox come the beginning of August. And for a while, that really did sort of feel like a pipe dream, right? Coming off of Tommy John surgery, there's always setbacks, there's stuff along that road. It's a long, long road to get back. It felt more realistic that he was most likely going to rejoin this team in 2025, maybe best case scenario at the back end of 2024. However, this news changes things a little bit. Now, it may not sound like the biggest news in the world that Liam Hendriks is throwing a bullpen, but it's a pretty big step in terms of getting him back to this Red Sox team, because if this bullpen session goes well, then he's probably going to throw one or two more of these, and then all of a sudden he's on a rehab assignment. It becomes a whole lot more realistic to eventually see Liam Hendriks with the Boston Red Sox come the beginning of August. Now, obviously, things with Tommy John, like I just said, don't tend to go as smoothly as that. There could be some setbacks here, and he could end up still not really coming back to this Red Sox team till maybe the end of August or midway through September. But if all goes well, I think there is a legitimately real possibility here we see Liam Hendriks with the Boston Red Sox by the beginning of August, basically right after the trade deadline. And that effect on this team is going to be absolutely fascinating because, as we all know, the Boston Red Sox currently have an all-star closer, a real Hall of Fame type closer in their bullpen right now in Kenley Jansen, who's been doing a really good job. Now, the belief for most of the season, basically the entire season, is that despite where the Red Sox end up at this year's trade deadline, Kenley Jansen ends up in a different uniform coming into August 1st. Now, this still appears to be the case, as Alex Spear last night released an article in which he was quoted saying there are teams that believe Jansen remains available and that he would represent a meaningful upgrade, which again makes sense. It's right in line with what the Red Sox have been telling us since spring training. However, as of right now, I wouldn't expect Kenley Jansen to be moved anytime soon. Rob Bradford also put out a report on what he's hearing regarding the Red Sox trading Kenley Jansen, and he said that right now the Red Sox asking price is currently unrealistic, which makes sense. To trade your all-star closer this far away from the deadline, or really anyone, you would have to be totally blown away. I still in my gut believe that regardless of how the Red Sox are doing and how Liam Hendriks is progressing, Kenley Jansen ends up in a different uniform after the trade deadline. But there's also a small part of me here that really wants Kenley to stay on this team, because if you think about it, and Liam Hendriks does come back at the beginning of August, that could end up making this Red Sox bullpen, especially the back end of this Red Sox bullpen, one of the deadliest in Major League Baseball. Plus, it might also be pretty beneficial to sort of ease Liam Hendriks back into a more high leverage role, right? If you put Liam Hendriks in the 7th or 8th inning type role before he can get full control of the 9th going into 2025, it might actually be be beneficial to his progression, right? He wouldn't come in and immediately have to be that guy. He could just be a pretty good setup man, and the Red Sox would be in a pretty good place. You would have an all-star closer for your 8th inning and a Hall of Fame track closer for your 9th inning. That could do a whole lot of damage, and there is a small part of me that thinks that could be a realistic possibility here. It's not very big. I still think overwhelmingly, especially with the news of Liam Hendriks coming into a bullpen session, that Kenley Jansen ends up in a different uniform. But man, wouldn't it be a ton of fun to have both of those guys in the back end of your bullpen, maybe splitting the closer role? I just think it would make this team just that much more dynamic, and again, it would just be a whole lot of fun to watch. Overall, taking a look at the Liam Hendriks update, this is fantastic news for the Red Sox, as I don't think they were fully expecting Liam Hendriks to progress this quickly, and it's going to make things extremely fascinating for this team come the MLB deadline. But he's not the only one we need to talk about today, because there's another big injury update on a high impact player as well. However, before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Not only does it help these videos out a ton, it's also the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content we are putting out. Thank you all very much for doing so. Let's talk about the other high impact injury. The second piece of Red Sox news I wanted to talk about here has to do with, in my opinion, the biggest name currently sitting on the Red Sox IL, and that is Triston Casas, because coming into yesterday, we got news that Casas was scheduled to get an MRI. Now, this isn't bad news. In fact, this is really good news. Well, the reason for this MRI was to see if Triston Casas was ready for that next step. Now, he met with doctors around 5 o'clock yesterday to go over the results of the MRI, and before that, Alex Cora told media that Triston's feeling really good, which is obviously an encouraging sign, right? Anytime someone says, hey, this dude's feeling really good, it's pretty good news in my opinion. It's hard to find anything negative with that statement. After the game, Alex Cora went a little bit more in depth. Now, we don't have the full results of the MRI just yet. News is we'll probably get more detailed results before today's game. If there's anything super major in there, we will absolutely cover it on this channel. If not, we'll be talking about the results of the MRI in tonight's live stream. But after the game, Alex Cora gave us a bit of insight as to where Triston Casas was, because he said that there's a pretty good chance Triston Casas starts swinging again this week. Now, because this is Wednesday, it's probably most likely going to be the next couple of days when Triston Casas starts swinging a bat again. And this was sort of the missing piece of the puzzle for Triston. Everything else felt good. It was the swinging that was sort of holding him back from really starting his rehab assignment. Now he might be able to go full go. Now, obviously, it's still going to take some time to really build himself up here. Triston Casas mentioned the other day that his goal to come back to the Boston Red Sox remains being that first series in July, which is against the Miami Marlins. To me, that feels a bit unrealistic at this point, mostly because I think the Red Sox are going to be extremely cautious in how they progress him back to the major league club. It's probably going to be a progression that looks something like a few hacks in the cage, maybe before or after a game, 20, 30 hacks, see where he's at there, how he feels the next day. Then if he feels good or if he feels bad, they'll go back to square one. But if he feels good, they'll give him a couple of BP sessions on the field. And then if he feels fine after that, then he will start his rehab assignment and eventually rejoin the Boston Red Sox. If all goes right, I think at this point, realistically, it's safe to assume it's going to be probably 2 or 3 weeks before Triston Casas rejoins the Boston Red Sox, but that's still really good news. His injury rehab sort of stalled out for a little bit, and it was starting to feel like, okay, now wait a second, when is Triston Casas actually going to come back? Now we have a bit more of a definitive timeline, especially if he actually does start swinging this week, which again, we will get more information on later today, but it sounds like it's really good news. And obviously, this is hugely important to the Boston Red Sox. One, it sort of feels like the Red Sox healing a bit. There are a couple of guys on this IL that just simply aren't going to be possibly back at any point this year, but Triston Casas getting back to the Red Sox sort of feels like, hopefully at least, the end of this Red Sox sort of just onslaught of injuries that they've had over the past couple of weeks. Triston Casas was kind of the face of that, getting him back back is sort of the symbolic end to that problem. And the other thing too is that the Red Sox have been playing extremely good baseball lately, but the conversation always kind of ends with, but what is this team going to look like with Triston back in this lineup? Because he's just such an impact bat. He's probably at the bare minimum your second best overall hitter on the team, possibly your first best overall hitter, right? Him and Rafael Devers right now could probably go toe to toe in terms of their impact at the plate, but simply getting Casas back in this lineup, one, presence alone is going to give other players better pitches to hit, but two, even if he isn't as productive right out of the gate, you're still getting that command over the strike zone in this lineup, which is going to be massive in turning around one of the Red Sox biggest problems still, and that is their strikeout rate. I think overall, regardless of how you look at it, Triston Casas getting even one step closer to returning to Major League Baseball is absolutely fantastic. It feels like a light at the end of this dark tunnel is getting brighter and brighter, and we're starting to see the end, hopefully, of this Red Sox injury mess. I also kind of feel bad for Dom Smith with this one, mostly because he's sitting there right now and he's hitting the ball pretty well at the moment, and he's basically looking down the barrel of the end of his time with the Boston Red Sox. It's probably a pretty hard thing to really get your head around. You have an expiration date here with this Red Sox team, but again, getting Triston Casas back is going to be absolutely fantastic. It's going to entirely change the dynamic of the Boston Red Sox, and right now we're starting to get a little bit more of a timeline, and that's an absolutely fantastic thing. It's also really great he's going to be back hopefully before the MLB deadline as well, because again, it's going to add an entirely different dynamic to this Red Sox team. Either way, taking a look at these two injuries overall, this is huge news for the Boston Red Sox. Whether you want to look at how this is going to impact the play on the field or how this is going to impact the dynamic off the field, both of these guys are going to have a major impact on how the Red Sox finish off the 2024 season, and I couldn't be happier that both of them are taking big strides in coming back to the Boston Red Sox. But that's just my opinion, so let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of all this? What do you think of the Hendricks news? What do you think of the Casas news? Do you think it's big news? Do you think it's small news? What do you think the Red Sox do when both of these guys get back, and how do you think this is going to impact the 2024 club? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest massive Red Sox injury news in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, like I said, we talk Sox almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Again, it just helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, live tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and don't forget you can listen to these episodes in podcast form, whether you want to listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, which links are in the description of this video, or you want to head over to your favorite podcast app, all you got to do is look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. I'll see you tonight, and of course, in the Red Seats.